comment section of this one. Now that video games are capable of holding their own as a serious storytelling medium, it's inevitable that there are going to be characters that people simply don't like. Now, to clarify, a hateable character isn't inherently bad. Many of the most iconic villains have little to no sympathetic qualities. We're supposed to hate them. The problem comes when we end up hating a character that the story presented as sympathetic or at least neutral. Maybe it's because they do questionable things that other characters never call them out on. Maybe it's because they get forgiven in a way that doesn't feel genuine. Maybe, and definitely the most prominent trait on this list, it's because their character development, if they get any, feels like a case of too little, too late. Now, make no mistake, there's nothing wrong with you liking these characters. I know they have their fans. I, for the reasons you'll find out in these entries, just can't quite get into them. With that out of the way, grab your flame shields and get ready for the top 10 hated characters that we're supposed to like. Alright, let's talk about Kingdom Hearts. I bet this alright. Oh, Final Fantasy. Sorry, they're just so similar. Okay, to be fair, Final Fantasy characters tend to be all over the place in terms of opinion. Some are awesome, some aren't, most are pretty bland, and to be honest, you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone who agrees on everything. But in order to find a character for this list, we need to look at the Final Fantasy game that epitomizes this list, Final Fantasy XIII. And that character is Vanille. Vanille starts off as a normal, mysterious, bubbly girl who encourages Hope to chase after Snow, and for the most part, she's harmless. Okay, she's the upbeat weirdo who has more importance later. She's the Aerith, she's the Renoa, she's the Yuna. Okay, we get it. Well, that is until we learn her backstory. Long story short, when Vanille and her friend Fang are on a mission from their world's deity to become Ragnarok and destroy the other world Cocoon, Fang became Ragnarok and almost destroyed Cocoon, but was stopped by the goddess and they became Crystal. When they woke up 600 years later, Fang lost her memories of their mission, but Vanille kept hers. To stop Fang becoming Ragnarok again, Vanille faked having her memories lost and decided to run away from her mission. Now, I will say that Vanille's main reasoning was because she didn't want other people to get hurt. But instead of confiding in her friend about her worries, she decides to run and lets Fang do what she wants anyway. This results in 5 people becoming Ilse, the entire purge of the New Bottom City, and pretty much the entire events of the game. And she keeps running. Throughout the entire game, she almost never owns up to her mistake or tries to fix it. She would let Sazh kill her or Fang stay oblivious if it meant her own guilt isn't revealed. It took Fang bluffing and having an Eidolon come out to get her to confess. And plus, her bubbly personality really starts to get grating after the first few chapters. To be fair, Vanille on her own isn't the worst, and the game she's from doesn't really do her any favors. Plus, she starts to mature a bit towards the end of the game, and then regresses in Lightning Returns, but so does everyone, so let's not talk about that. But when you have a game where most of the cast really aren't that likable, and Vanille is considered the worst, there's a problem. And like a good portion of this list, because she's a main character, we're supposed to like her. We don't. Alright guys, I have here the Devil May Cry reboot. Alright, let's have a little look-see. Yow! Got myself on the edge. Oh no. It feels weird having to put Dante on this list because in the original Devil May Cry games, there wasn't much wrong with him. I mean, in the first couple titles, yeah, he took himself a little too seriously and was especially boring in DMC2. But in the third and fourth titles, he was more comic relief. He was flamboyant, irreverent, and confident, but he was never too annoying. He just had that right level of snarkiness and just had a good time with whatever he did. But then in 2013's DMC Devil May Cry, they redesigned the character completely, from his looks to his age to his backstory, resulting in...
You don't look a day over 12,000.
Oh, I have such a headache! It hurts! Oh.
Yep, in an effort to appeal to a more Western audience, Ninja Theory decided to make Dante into... I can't mince words. They made him into a little He's cockier than fans can stomach, he's more of a womanizer, and he tries way too hard to be this hip and cool edgelord, to the point where he slurs his own lines with a snobby voice, and just look at these two back to back and you tell me what's wrong with this picture! Not to mention, even when the game's director didn't care what fans thought about his Dante, he still went out of his way to try and show some semblance of the previous incarnation of the character in this little punk. Like he's trying to piss the fans off. I don't know which is worse, the fact that the director didn't fully commit to reinventing the character, or how jarring seeing this new guy attempt to be his much better predecessor is. I get why you need to reboot things sometimes. I can also understand wanting to try to appeal to a Western audience, but they took it the wrong way by turning an endearing, funny protagonist into a generic grunge kid. There are a lot of ways they could have made this work, like maybe tone down Dante's attitude a smidge, or better yet, maybe actually commit to one of the early ideas of this story being a prequel and not a reboot, which would justify much of his bratty and vapid personality. The worst part is that he's the game's central protagonist, so we're stuck watching him be an emo little punk throughout the whole story. But in a way, he's also unintentionally funny. Like, he's such a pathetic, what? Not a faith, Dad. It's impossible to take him seriously. With the right perspective, he can be ironically funny, which is why he's so low on the list. At least it's something. I smell angsty younger brother. Must be Fire Emblem. Hello, Fire Emblem Fates. There's plenty I could say about you today, but I think I'll leave that for another video someday. Don't read into that. Anyway, before we got Dimitri's kill every last one of them meme, Takumi was the angsty edgelord of Fire Emblem, and boy did he come with some trust issues. Now, in the conquest route, his rage towards Corrin is pretty justified. While Corrin didn't murder the Hoshidan Queen, she died trying to protect Corrin, and Corrin reacted by deciding to go back to their adopted family, betraying their birth family. Now, while the main reason for that is because the player wanted to play the harder Fates route, Takumi didn't take it well. But there were a few factors in Takumi's favor in Conquest, and he was an antagonist. The question of whether or not we were supposed to like him is a bit more complicated. Despite that, in Birthright and Revelations, where you actually join your Hoshidan family, Takumi is still a bit of a dick. He looks down on you, gives cold remarks, and distrusts Corrin for a good part of Birthright. In Revelations, he didn't join you despite Sakura already being with you, and only does after hearing a prophecy from the sage who then died, and that convinced him to begrudgingly join you. And okay, to be fair, Takumi has inferiority issues that make him jealous of Corrin when Ryoma decides to favor Corrin over him when they came to Hoshido for the first time. Something even more apparent in the drama CD for Fates. These self-esteem issues and paranoia is something a lot of us can relate to, but that doesn't excuse him from being a brat. And those same issues eventually lead to his possession and final fate in Conquest. Now, you probably noticed that I've been trying to be more constructive when talking about something negative in countdowns lately, sometimes offering ideas for improvements. I would like to do that here, but again, there's a video in the pipeline about that, so I won't go through that here. Takumi gets progressively better in Birthright and doesn't really change much in Revelation, but it doesn't get any less grating. He's supposed to be your birth brother and likable as a result, but let's just say there was a reason that hashtag blame Takumi was trending back when the game first came out. I've mentioned before on this channel during my Fixing Other M video with Alex Roshan how Adam Malkovich and Samus's relationship isn't exactly handled the best. Samus, certified awesome hero of the galaxy a couple times over, takes orders from Adam as a good little soldier for no reason, even when it actively hurts her. So apparently we were supposed to see Adam as a sort of mentor slash father figure to Samus. And that's why we got in Metroid Fusion. Adam does seem to be a good guy who cares about Samus there. And in the manga, it was Adam who encouraged Samus to lead the Federation military in order to reach her full potential. Samus specifically states how much she trusts and respects him and how she thinks he feels the same. That iconic catchphrase?
Any objections, lady?
It was supposed to be something warm, a verbal acknowledgement of the trust they shared. Then Other M comes along and ruins everything.
You maniacs! You blew it up!
In Other M, Adam is every bad military commander stereotype. He treats his troops like they're disposable dirt, expects absolute obedience, and is constantly cold and condescending to Samus. I don't know if it's just bad direction or intentional, but Adam's playful, in-jokey, any objections lady turned from something people thought fondly of to one of the most reviled phrases in gaming for a time due to how condescending it sounded coming out of his mouth. Adam is supposed to be some great military genius, yet he makes some key tactical blunders. In the game's opening, his whole team struggles to put a dent in the Brugmass, and then Adam, instead of logically assuming that there are other creatures just as bad, if not worse than the Brugmass infesting the bottle ship, orders his team to split up into smaller, easier to beat units. This order is baffling, and the issue is further compounded when comms go down, leaving the team in disorganized pieces. Did you even go to OCS, you complete and utter boot? And then we come to the biggest reason everyone grew to loathe Adam during Other M, the authorization mechanic. It would be one thing if Adam asked Samus to be mindful of her power bomb usage. Samus has, again, saved the galaxy and proven herself capable of handling herself in combat. And based on the Metroid timeline, Samus has successfully pulled off 8 high-profile missions and who knows how many other minor missions she's done in her job as a bounty hunter. Adam knows this, so why is he treating Samus like a toddler who just found daddy's gun? Heck, because Samus deserted and Adam's not taking her in to be court-martialed, maybe Adam's asking her to be mindful of her weapons and authorizes usage of abilities so he doesn't get in trouble, and Samus agrees because she doesn't want him to get in trouble. But no, he coldly orders her not to use anything without his permission, and she goes along with it, even something purely defensive like the Varia suit. Oh, and speaking of the Varia suit, Adam, why did you let Samus roast alive? I know I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but come on! What kind of great military mind lets one of his best assets suffer needlessly and potentially die of heat stroke? All this points toward Adam having absolutely zero faith or trust in Samus's ability to think and act for herself, and an utter lack of care for her or the people below him. It is disgustingly condescending to a combat veteran like Samus. And the real kicker, the thing that makes everything so much worse than it already was, Samus follows his orders like a good little girl for most of the game. And funnily enough, probably his most redeemable moment is the moment that most people hated, him shooting Samus in the back. Remember guys, Adam did that to save her. It was either going to be him or Samus who sacrificed themselves for the greater good. He believed that Samus's life had more worth than his own and shot Samus so he could make sure he died in her place. He knew Samus would try to make that self-sacrifice, and he had to make sure that she didn't. I mean, come on, he can't overpower someone like her. And yeah, shooting an ally in the back is very squicky, especially given the actress acting the pain a little too well, but that sort of self-sacrifice is very admirable. But again, it is a situation of too little too late, especially because he shot her when he didn't know for sure if he could kill the Metroid. What the fuck is wrong with you, you stupid excuse for a military? Once upon a time, I talked about how weird the ending of Soul Calibur 5 was. Wasted potential, really poor execution. And who do we have to blame for the way things happened?
It was me! It was me!
Yep, that bizarre ending is all thanks to Patroklos. And believe it or not, this guy had problems even before he decided to screw with the timeline. For starters, his gameplay. So in the story, Patroklos is lectured to get a style that's not like that pale imitation of his mother's. Oh, so instead of being a pale imitation of Sophicia, he's being a pale imitation of Setsuka. Oh, nice. Trading one shadow fighting style for another. Yeah, totally not an imitation. Oh, and look, his character is absolutely busted. Oh, and then there's his actual character. First off, he's a total hypocrite, saying that he follows his own fate while blindly doing whatever Elysium tells him to do. Yeah, because nothing says I'm my own man than being led astray by some scantily clad cryptic sword lady, am I right? At least you know he's dedicated to the cause, because he hates the Malfested so much that he'll murder anyone who even looks like one, even if they're completely innocent. Oh, and remember that part about his sister turning evil? Yeah, you want to know what helped push her over the edge? Patroklos running away and rejecting her even though she wasn't fully evil and she had just saved his life. To his credit, he does snap out of it after killing his sister. But because heaven forbid he actually learn anything from his misdeeds, he does the wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey thing to save her, destroy both Soul Calibur and Soul Edge, cause a soft reboot of the franchise, and face his no consequences.
I abused my power and I learned nothing.
I think that's the most annoying part about Patroklos. He gets off way too easy with all the bad stuff he does, both in-game and out. There are a lot of ways they could have made the story work. Maybe give him a better reason to reject his sister other than because the magical Thord lady told him to. Or better yet, remove the whole time travel thing at the end. Okay, call me an emotional sadist, but I think him having that villain realization and him being unable to save his sister would have made a much more satisfying and poignant ending, showing him that his actions can affect those he cares about in the worst way and give us a reason to sympathize with them. He's screwed up and he needs to go on a road of redemption. But no, he gets his sister back, we lose all our favorite established characters, most of which don't even appear in Soul Calibur 5, and they all copped out happily ever after. Really, the only good thing about him is that he erased himself from his own franchise.
You can't hurt anyone anymore.
What are friends for? I'm sure most of you have heard or read this phrase at least once. Usually it's done after someone has helped out in some way. However, if you ask this question to one Chloe Price, you'd probably get a slightly different take. A different, deeply infuriating take. Chloe is the best friend and potential love interest of Max, the protagonist of Life is Strange. I say best friend in quotation marks because these two haven't seen each other in 5 years. Their reunion dashed when Chloe gets shot by a drug-addled boy. Luckily for Chloe, Max has the power to rewind time, and she does so to save Chloe's life. However, well, this isn't the last time Chloe ends up dead. But at this point, I'm only talking about things that happened to Chloe to make her the allegorical albatross around Max's neck. What is this shining beacon of humanity like as a person that makes Max want to save her so much? She's freaking awful! Chloe feels like some amalgamation of every terrible, emotionally manipulative girlfriend you've ever heard of. There's no nice way to say this. Chloe is a leech in every sense of the word, except actually being a small worm. She demands all of Max's attention like a spoiled child. She does whatever she wants and to hell with the consequences. She encourages Max to break the law on multiple occasions and is emotionally abusive to Max constantly. When Max's time powers start showing side effects like a bleeding nose, potentially hinting at brain damage of some sort, Chloe yells at Max and tells her to basically suck it up, buttercup. Oh yeah, did I mention she murders the man and gets away with it? All of this would be fine if Chloe was an antagonist, someone tempting Max away from the good path with an appropriate bad end for a choose your own adventure type story like Life is Strange. If Chloe was the Chara to Max's Frisk, but remember the title of this video? We're somehow supposed to like this girl and want her and Max to get together, whether as friends or as lovers. But this train doesn't end here. Oh no, it somehow gets worse. Now, you may feel a bit sympathetic towards Chloe because her father died, she didn't have her best friend around to help her get through it constructively, and her stepfather wasn't much help. She can also die a potential 6 times in the story. However, I like to point something out. Each and every time, it is Chloe's fault she dies. Let's get out the way, shall we? 1, she threatens a guy with a gun and gets shot for it. 2, she steals her stepdad's gun and shoots it recklessly, resulting in a bullet ricocheting and killing her. 3, Max and Chloe lay down on active train tracks. While Chloe gets trapped in the train tracks somehow, it's her own fault for being there in the first place. Never mind that Chloe should be able to take her boot to free herself to begin with. 4, in an alternate timeline where Chloe might have actually been a decent person, she actively asks Max to euthanize her. 5, shot in the head after deciding to snoop around the lair of a suspected murderer without backup. This isn't Scooby-Doo! Call the cops! 6, in the supreme moment of too little too late, with the whole Arcadia Bay already dead to the storm, Chloe tries to convince Max to rewind time and let her die in the bathroom. Given Chloe has been conditioning Max to be obsessed with her the whole game, it's not surprising that Max declares over and over that all she cares about is Chloe.
Chloe, would it kill you to stop dying?
And I don't even think I'm doing full justice to what a terrible person Chloe is. She shoots a dog, for crying out loud. There are a host of incidents that make my case for me, but I'll stop here for the sake of time. We have others on this list who are somehow even worse. Oh boy, boy, I'd be swarmed in the comments if I didn't bring this up. Ask any Metal Gear Solid fan who their least favorite character is, and there's a 50-50 chance you'll hear Rosemary or Raiden's name from Metal Gear Solid 2 at least once or twice. However, I'd argue that as the franchise moved forward, Raiden actually got better over time. Rose, on the other hand, faded into obscurity with each passing title.
And there was much rejoicing.
But many outside the fandom may be asking, why? Why so much hate for a protagonist's fiancé? Well, at first, she just seems like a nagging girlfriend who keeps bothering him while he's in the middle of a mission. Constantly! It blows my mind that she is not more hated than Navi is. But you can make the argument that this is just harmless romance. Or is it? It turns out, and I finally get to use this meme, that Rosemary is a spy! In reality, she's working for the Patriots and was ordered to stage a fake romance to keep an eye on Raiden, and all those calls about tomorrow were baiting him to keep moving forward on a fake mission with the promise of a happy life. Okay, yeah, that's just cruel. I can be convinced to overlook the constant calls, but stringing someone along and playing with their feelings and expecting them to be okay with it later? No! But apparently she ended up falling for him anyway and actually tries to make him see reality, which is admirable, I guess. But the fact that she kept it going is a little too rigmarole for my taste. And the lies don't end there. In Metal Gear Solid 4, we learn that she left him with a fake marriage and lied about having a miscarriage just to protect her son from the Patriots, and then later just comes back despite all the heartache she keeps causing Raiden. How can he believe anything this woman says after that? Look, call it cliche, but I really believe the foundations of a great relationship are built with honesty and trust. If they just had Rose learn her lesson the first time in Metal Gear Solid 2, that would have been just fine. But they had to keep that ball rolling in Metal Gear Solid 4, and I don't feel good about this woman. I keep expecting her to put a knife in my back. Honestly, I feel bad because Kojima put a lot of heart into the deeper message behind Metal Gear Solid 2, but it didn't land well and people just turned on Rose. Guess there's a time and place for an artistic message, and this wasn't it.
You don't understand my vision!
All right, time to talk about The Last of Us. You want me to talk about Joel? Well, too bad, because Abby exists.
Yeah, I originally intended to put Joel on this list, mainly for his actions during the original game's ending. More details can be found in my top 10 worst endings video. Then The Last of Us 2 happened. The main conflict of the game is between Ellie, Joel's daughter figure from the original turned hardened survivor, and Abby, the daughter of one of the scientists that Joel killed in the last game. Abby kills Joel as revenge, and you can see where this is going. And I love this setup. Ellie and Abby are perfectly placed in a no villain, just two people with different viewpoints plot, with part of the game even being shown from the latter's perspective. We see that Abby has some good, genuine friendships and is willing to go to bat and risk a lot for them. Joel gets some consequences for his actions as well. Looking at these ideas, the story almost writes itself. And somehow they screwed it up. Of course, like pretty much every character on this list, the problem comes down to execution. We're supposed to see Abby in a morally ambiguous light when she commits utterly sociopathic actions throughout the game, most notably taking sadistic pleasure in the attempted murder of a pregnant woman and killing a man who is going to be a father. She only stopped killing the pregnant woman because plot? But I believe the biggest reason people seem to hate her is how she kills Joel. And strangely, I kind of agree with everyone. As much as I believe Joel to be evil and wanted him to face consequences for his actions, this situation doesn't make a ton of sense. If Abby wanted revenge so badly, she could have just shot him in the face at several points. But no, in the very definition of gratuitous, she ambushes him with a bunch of her friends, tortures him in front of Ellie, and then murders him in cold blood. All after Joel saved her life. Holy shit! It's honestly disappointing because out of all the characters on this list, Abby was the closest to actually working. It's painfully clear the game was trying to pull a Nier and say, no one sets out to do evil. People just do what they believe is justified. I mean, in an ideal world, I would be okay with Abby since she addresses my criticism about Joel getting off the hook. Yeah, sorta. Yes, Ellie did some morally questionable things too, like killing Mel, but she was clearly not okay with it. Unlike Abby, who either doesn't care about causing suffering or actively enjoys it. Plus, Ellie ultimately took the moral high ground by deciding not to kill Abby in spite of everything, even though she killed a lot of people to get there. And this story has some serious issues. At the very least, I haven't seen many people defend her, other than the contrarians and radical social justice types who say that people only hate her because she's muscular and they can't take it. LOL, masculinity's so fragile.
Zarya is one of my video game crushes. Shut the fuck up!
Warning, this segment contains a discussion of sexual assault. While nothing explicit will be shown, those who are sensitive to such material are advised to proceed with caution or stop watching this video entirely, or skip ahead to this time. So, you know the one blatantly sexist trope where a female character can get away with sexual harassment and straight up abuse because they're an attractive woman and that makes it funny, while if it was a dude doing it, it would be horrifying? Well, Iris Heart from Neptunia Victory is what you get if you took that up to infinity and beyond. We are first introduced to Iris via Plusha, her main self. Plusha seems nice at first, if a little ditzy. Oh, okay, a lot ditzy. Then she transforms into Iris and...
I went and transformed so I could save that ass of yours.
I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, you can probably imagine the kind of stuff that happens next. Now, this maybe could have worked if the targets of Iris's non-figurative sexual abuse were only the villains and this is their karmic punishment, though you'd probably have to heavily censor it, as well as make it unambiguous that this isn't good behavior. Instead, Iris is more than willing to molest her allies, including...
Okay, my darling little Iffy. I'm sorry for the wait.
Okay, guys, something you need to understand about media. Portrayal of something is not the same as condoning something.
What the hell is wrong with you?
So, at this point, you're probably wondering what the other protagonists do about Iris's behavior. Well, they don't. Aside from one or two of them finger wagging, they are straight up complacent with her being a non-figurative child molester, making them borderline accomplices to a felony. I guess everyone just completely forgot that CFW Trick in the previous game was portrayed as evil for doing the same thing, huh? Heck, they even let her partake in raising the underaged If and Compa, despite the former clearly being traumatized by her. It gets to the point where it's not hard to see why the villains want to get rid of the good guys given how they act most of the time. Look, I understand this game is supposed to be a comedy/parody, and yeah, believe it or not, I love dark humor. If you're not trying to be malicious with it, it takes a lot for me to get offended by a joke. And I am the last person who would call for censorship. That said, I have two questions. One, why? Why would you do this? Two, how are we supposed to find child molestation and trauma funny? As insane as this sounds, I think that Iris actually could have worked as a character. Just hear me out for a bit. We're shown that Plusha is aware of her actions as Iris, so why not work with that? Have Iris be treated as this super-powered evil side that she's forced to rely on since the villains are just that powerful. Have her resent herself for having to resort to Iris. Give her a character arc where she learns to control Iris and use her for good. Heck, you can have a battle in the center of her mind where the two of them face off, then Plusha takes over permanently and inherits Iris's powers. But that wouldn't make too much sense. Instead of development as a character, Iris gets no comeuppance whatsoever for her horrific actions throughout the story. Heck, Plusha's reaction is rarely more than a "Did I do that?" Ashley Graham, Resident Evil 4. Everything wrong about escort missions with a shrill tone.
Help me, Leon!
Rosa Ushiromiya, physically and emotionally abusive parent whom you're supposed to feel bad for. Fortunately, she gets what she deserves, repeatedly. Mutset Teloshilia, was your ally, turns out to be an evil spirit, was supposed to be redeemed, but never really seems to learn her lesson. I do feel a little bad due to her codependency issues, though. Alphys from Undertale. I don't hate her, but I can see why she has a bit of a hate-dom, as her actions aren't quite kosher, she's a little manipulative, and her interruptions can get really annoying. Javier from Walking Dead New Frontier. Trying to take Leon Clementine's place as the main protagonist was bad enough, but his whole family drama is really hard to get invested in. And fooling around with your brother's wife behind his back? Not kosher, Yavi, even if he is a jerk. Dragon Age, home to a vast ensemble of characters that are loved and hated by many. Obviously, we got characters that are almost universally loved, like Alistair, Varric, and the Iron Bull. But then we have those characters that are much more divisive. Morrigan is an insufferable narcissist and pragmatic to a fault, but dang if she isn't well written. And while I personally hate Solus and his holier-than-thou attitude, I am willing to admit he's a great source of world building, and the DLC catapults him to become amazing. And then there's Anders. Let's see how this whole process goes. Anders is a mage who has been evading the Circle of Magi and the Templars for a while now, and wishes to fight for his fellow mages for equality and freedom. Okay, we got a whole freedom fighter thing going here, I like that. Believes in the Maker and acknowledges the creation of mages, and points out that the Chantry was made by man and is therefore flawed. Ooh, we got the faith versus religion thing going here, that's good. Is a super powerful spellcaster, awesome. Always love a good sorcerer to blow my enemies into oblivion. Is a complete snark when off the battlefield, works as a medic for the impoverished, and has a soft spot for cats. Wow, they're just ticking all the boxes with this guy. Gets possessed by a demon, becomes a total dick as a result, which eventually leads into blowing up the Chantry and killing hundreds of people while starting World War D&D.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, they had everything set up to make Anders one of the greatest and most likable characters to come out of Dragon Age, and then the writers completely dropped the ball with him. Sure, he was possessed by justice and that eventually causes vengeance to manifest, but Anders makes it clear at the end of the Last Straw mission that he knew what he was doing and went through with it anyway. To hell with the consequences. What makes this so frustrating is that there is no way to prevent this, and there's almost no build up to it. It doesn't matter how well you get along with Anders throughout the story. It doesn't matter whether you sided with the mages or the Templars. It doesn't matter how much you investigate the matter regarding Anders and justice. The Chantry will get blown up. Hundreds of people will die, and Anders will be at the center of it all, and he knows it. That doesn't make him sympathetic, it makes him freaking hypocritical. It's even worse because there's so much potential here for Anders to be a compelling and wonderful character. In fact, you want Anders done well? Look at Lelouch from Code Geass. You're supposed to be on the fence about whether you like him or not, or think his actions are justified. And the equivalent of the Chantry burning moment? It was an accident. So maybe we can look at that as a template to improve this. Maybe if you have a high friendship or rivalry with Anders, or complete a side quest, or maybe complete a mission that actually gets Meredith and Orsino to come to some sort of truce. I don't know. Whatever the case, your actions could cause Anders to get cold feet at the last second. Then vengeance takes over and forces him to go through with it. The big thing here, there is no "I did what I had to do" from Anders, as his actions are far too disproportionately extreme to be justifiable or keep him sympathetic. Have Anders realize that because he fused with justice, corrupting him to become vengeance, he's probably too much of a danger to others. While not possessed by a demon exactly, he has caused the same amount of suffering, just with a different motivation. This has to be the critical moment where Anders realizes he's become the embodiment of everything the Templars fear mages could be. People like him are the reason why Templars are so cruel and smothering to mages. This realization should break him. Maybe he asks you to end him. Maybe if you're in a rivalry with him and sided more with the Templars in the story, he may utter something along the lines of, "You were right all along." To summarize, in trying to stop the Templars from being paranoid and authoritarian, Anders became their biggest justification to be so. It would be kind of okay if that were addressed in the story, but it wasn't. And that's what makes him so loathsome and infuriating. Take notes, writers. You can spend an entire game making a character likable, but if you're not careful, it can all be ruined by one single moment. I wanted to like Anders. I really did. But now I just can't.
I'm the fiery Joker, and... just realized that maybe this is why I don't like playing as Shulk.
Hey everyone, this is Josh. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the video around. Please check out my other social media like my Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr. Consider checking below the video and donating to my Patreon, Streamlabs for my merchandise, or becoming a YouTube member, and you'll get rewards like this. Our name shoutouts come from Ryan Anderson, Sonic Cody, and Misty Phantom. Thanks for watching.